Hello and welcome to a live edition of the Nittany Dispatch. I'm John Sauber, Penn State beat writer at Snyder Daily Times. She is Audrey Snyder, doing the same at InsideTheLions.substack.com. And Audrey, it is finally over.
Buddy, we made it to the end. It's over.
Yes, finally.
We can get our lives back.
Yes, and we have a little news to share on here too. Audrey's, I think, updating her story now, and we're putting it on SnyderDaily.com right now as well. But Audrey, would you like to share with good folks listening the news?
Yes, I can. I'm just typing this out right now. Apologies for my loud typing. If you're a longtime listener, you know I'm a loud typer.
Yes, loud typer, loud in general.
Penn State interim head coach Terry Smith is expected to stay at Penn State, a source confirmed to Inside the Lions. That's my Substack. That's where I'm at when I'm not chatting with John here.
Yes, and if anyone would like, I can also confirm that information. And again, you can find Audrey's story about that at Inside the Lions. You can find our story about it over at SnyderDaily.com, where the venerable Josh Moyer is doing a wonderful job with that story right now. But yes,
I just want to say, John, you did a wonderful job chasing down the news. Breaking the story of Matt Campbell's hiring, and man, this has been a long day, long week, long month, long couple months, 54 days.
I think
good work. We made it to the end.
Yeah, I think the biggest indication of that is right here for those watching on video. The coffee cup that I have at 8:15 at night. This is cup number 3 today. There's been a lot of anticipation building about this. About this.
I've shifted over to other beverages.
Yes. This is, this has been building toward this probably for the last, I would say, about 28 or so hours. I think we probably just walk everyone through the process. Probably a good place to start, as this might be a chaotic episode. It's been a chaotic few months, few weeks, few hours, few days, all of that. But Matt Campbell interviewed with Penn State over a Zoom call Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I get any of this wrong, because I am trying to do this off the top of my head.
We don't know what the days are, to be honest.
Yes. So Wednesday night, Terry Smith will be reading the chat at the same time. Wednesday night, Matt Campbell interviews at Penn State with Penn State over Zoom. Thursday night, Penn State sends a contingent to him in Ames. They fly into Ames. I don't know exactly where the meeting took place, to meet with him. I am under the impression that Neely Bendapudi was not on that flight. I know that's kind of been pushed a lot. People are saying that Neely Bendapudi, Penn State's president, got hyper involved. I don't believe that's the case. She was involved from the get-go. She has to approve all of these things. She was informed on all of this. And she had to approve this, right? Like this is, but I am under the impression that this is Penn State Athletic Director Pat Kraft's decision to hire Matt Campbell. So they meet last night in Ames. Penn State gets back early Friday morning, somewhere around like 12:30, 1 a.m. Things are looking positive from what I was hearing at that point, that it was trending in the right direction. It was just a matter of hammering through everything. You started to see the reports leak out earlier today that they were moving toward a deal. That was the case last night, right? Like that's when that process started. It did not get done. They were not confident that it was going to get done and signed and everything until late tonight. I think around 6:30. As I waited by my laptop all day, sort of waiting for the confirmation on this, is like you said, there was a lot of chasing these past couple of weeks with this story, and then tweeted out, broke it and everything. But yeah, this is where that's how it sort of went down with this, right? So we go from Monday is when I believe it started to look like Kalani Sitake was going to be the head coach. I think it was Monday. Tuesday is when confidence really picked up from what I had heard. Mm-hmm. And then out of nowhere, probably 2 hours after I got off a phone call where I was making plans to get stories together, right? Like other stories together. I'd already written 4 at that point. And I was getting things pre-written based on what I was hearing. It falls apart. Sitake stays. It ends up not happening. And Penn State has to pivot. Then they go to Jeff Brom initially. The names that I had heard at that point in the process were Brom, were Brian Dable. You heard Jeff Hafley's name. I don't know how real that was at the time. There was some interest there. I don't know that
because they knew they couldn't do it.
Whatever. Yeah, we don't need the Packers fans' opinion of this. So they talked to Brom, but I think there was not fear, but an assumption there the whole time that he was going to do what Sitake did, right? Stay with his alma mater. Do what Brent Key has done and stay with his alma mater. Do what all these guys who are at their schools and stay there. They moved to Dable, and I'm not going to lie. I thought at that point that was going to be the hire Wednesday night, but I think it was.
My Dable pre-write was not kind. I will let the listeners in on that.
Nor was mine. But I think I don't want to say cooler heads prevailed because it's not like anyone was overreacting. I think there was a decision made that, okay, if this is our leading candidate, let's reassess. Let's look at things. And that's when the names Tommy Rees, offensive coordinator with the Cleveland Browns, Matt Patricia, defensive coordinator with Ohio State, who I have been very critical of. We would have had some
fun with that one.
Yeah, that would have been a bad time for me. And, of course, Matt Campbell's name comes up. Campbell quickly got to the forefront there. And here we are. And then, like I said, to go back to what I was saying earlier about the conversation Wednesday, they talked to Rees on Thursday. They talked to Patricia Wednesday morning, afternoon, Campbell Wednesday evening/night, Rees Thursday morning. And I made the decision there, as far as I know, that they were going to be chasing Campbell. Did I miss anything, Audrey?
No. I mean, I think, besides sleep and touching grass and having a life for the past 54 days, but those are all minor details, John. We sacrificed for the good listeners of the Nittany Dispatch. This was a chaotic search. This was a search that was long, that was trying for Penn State, as John outlined. Kalani got to what we thought was the finish line. And sometimes, John, people change. They change their minds. They change their thoughts. They change everything. And Penn State had to pivot. And you know what? It's like when you're – God, I shouldn't do this. I'm not going to throw the runway under the bus. It's like when you're trying to land the plane, right? Yeah, and there was a lot of turbulence on this flight. And it's like they hit the landing. And then, like, have you ever been on one of those flights where you hit the landing and you pop back up? I've had some of those on this local airport where it's like, oh, we're not ready to land yet. Sorry, guys. It was like that. And then ultimately, though, they landed it. And I think the cool thing with this, they got the guy that they probably should have gotten all along. Like, to me, I'm a Matt Campbell, I don't want to say fan because we're not really fans of anything here except for the professional teams that I back. I'm a fan of what the guy's done. I'm a fan of the resume. I am of the assumption that, and maybe I'm wrong, and we'll have plenty of time to find out in the coming months, years, if I am. You have the template in place. You have done a lot with a little in terms of resources, right? In terms of revenue, of opportunities, of, hey, you're little brother in the state of Iowa, and you've got to find a way to navigate that. And this staff has done it masterfully. And so I was intrigued by Matt Campbell from the get-go. I was surprised that Penn State didn't pursue him harder earlier than they did. But I think, John, for all of this search is a disaster. It's terrible. Someone needs to step in, take over. It's going to flame out. Oh, my God, how did they get here? All the hysteria. And, like, I get it because it was trended that way. And I wrote, God, I don't know the day, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day it was, that I thought that Matt Campbell was the only way they could salvage this search.
We said that on the last episode, both of us.
That's right. We talked about that. That's right. How soon I forget.
Yes.
But yeah, I just think this is a smart hire. You look at the regional fit. He's an Ohio guy. Again, like, we'll have to see a lot of moving parts, who comes with him. Like, we can get into all that stuff. But gut reaction, I like the hire. I think fans, don't be tempted to, because I've seen some of this already, don't be tempted to look at the records and say, oh, well, here's the record. Here's James's record. Here's his. It's apples to oranges because Iowa State is so different and it's so difficult to win there and do what the guy has just done there for the past decade.
And before we get too much in his track record, I still want to talk about this process a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I know. You mentioned something, about like sort of watching it all play out and letting it all play out. I'm reminded of a phrase that our friend Nate Boward over Blue White Illustrated likes to use on his message board. He says you run the race, right? Like that's what Penn State had to do, right? Like there were diversions along the way. Things didn't go great at times. You got to run the race. You got to get to the finish line. And I think one of the reasons, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think one of the reasons and I believe you didn't publish anything when it started to come out around like whatever that was, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, is because that point in the search, the 99% confidence is the confidence level that Penn State had with Satake, right? Like that is where they were at. Things were agreed to then too, right? Like, in fact, I think you could argue that it was further along and it was just a matter of finishing the season.
And so, like, thought out. Yes.
And now there was more time and everything for him to reconsider and all that stuff, and that has to be considered. But that's why you wait, right? Like that's why you wait until it is done and it is agreed to, and everything is like the team meeting's been scheduled and all of that stuff to inform players on both sides. And so I think that's important in this process to kind of why you saw us not say anything at the time. And I think Audrey, you tweeted something about like, we've been here before, right? Like we saw this play out, and that's I think that's a good way to put what this afternoon was.
For sure. With the Matt Campbell stuff Friday afternoon, it's like, yes, it's trending that direction, but a little like journalism nerd inside baseball here, like it's got to get done. And that's the apprehension that Penn State fans understandably so had of like, okay, and that's why I tweeted that out of like, guys, we've been here before just on Tuesday. Like I can't stress enough just how close Penn State thought that they had a deal done before. Like they thought that it was getting done. And it didn't. And so you got to pivot. You got to figure it out. And I just, again, like I said before, I like Matt Campbell. I like the idea of it. I like the fit. Now, by keeping Terry Smith, which is what I'm reporting, that I think is going to help you try and keep these guys that, boy, we've had some audio leaks over the past 20 hours.
Get to that.
We've had tweets. We've had a lot of angst. Like we've had
people try and derail the process from behind the scenes because they had ulterior motives, and I think some of those things are tied together. Even real quick, just want to say, those of you who are watching live right now on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up button down below. Hit the subscribe button. That really helps us out. We are marching toward 4,000 subscribers, and we greatly appreciate all of you guys that are here and are watching and are listening. But yeah, but we are going to get to the chat. This might be a pretty long episode. I'm not dismissing anything at this point.
What? Listen, I just want to say, John, we can say that when I built my December schedule that I, was maybe anticipating months ago a Big Ten title game. So I left this weekend free. Next 2 weekends are not free. So the fact that despite this search being as weird as it was, hey, I've got all weekend. If we're here chatting 2 hours tonight, we're here chatting. I've got it. We're going to answer all the questions.
And we will get to like the comparison between James Franklin and Matt Campbell and everything. And I apologize. I'm sure this will be like our last episode where we're both checking our phones at times and making sure that nothing is happening or there's no information that any source of sort of passing along that as these things sort of come out. Where do we really start, right? I will let you, do you want to go to some questions and then we'll pivot back to some of the comparison stuff and the audio stuff? Because I think a lot of this is going to tie in because again, we appreciate everyone that is in the chat. Without you guys, this would not be possible.
Yeah, let's hop into the questions.
Yeah. Let's want to hear what you guys have to say. I want to hear what everyone thinks and questions in any way we can be. Essentially, we're here for you, right? Like we want to know what you want to know about.
What are you drinking tonight? How are you celebrating?
Yes,
we're all done scrolling.
Some of us cold brew, and like I'm really rolling through the caffeine today. The first question that I saw earlier before we even went live, was if we can confirm or comment on the numbers that are being reported for NIL and staff. I haven't asked about it. Like it was one of those things that I missed in the lead up to it. I saw the tweet from Matt Fortuna of the Inside Zone. I would highly recommend subscribing to Matt. He does great work.
Friend of show.
Yes, friend of the show, Matt Fortuna. He's wonderful. If you're a Notre Dame fan, go listen to The Independent. Him and Pete Sampson are great. But there is no reason not to believe Matt, right? Like I believe those numbers are accurate because I believe Matt, and I'm sure Audrey and I will.
Penn State alum.
Yes, he is, and he's a great guy and a great writer and great podcast host. Someone asked if we think Terry Smith will stay. Yes, both of us can confirm that. Audrey had that first.
He's staying. And I think that's a significant piece to this, right? That's the. Okay, would he go with James Franklin? We know he's a Penn State guy, but does that win out? Again, I don't know what the role is, what that looks like, because, again, there's a lot of moving pieces here. I can tell you we don't have the answers to everything tonight. That's just how this works. But the fact that you're retaining someone who can help you try and keep some of these other players, that's a win. Like, that I think is what you had hoped to try and get some stability around here, especially –
did you see some tweets disappear, by the way?
Oh, yeah, I mean, the players made it known how they felt, right? With the tweets, with the signs.
And their kids, like, it's fine.
You know what? You're 18 to 22, 23. Like, I get it. You're mad because your coach got fired. Totally understand it. But, John, I guess now maybe we're going to see, like, okay, if everybody was going to leave, if Terry's not the head coach, if Terry's still an assistant, what sway does that have? I don't know. But Matt Campbell is going to have the next month because, hey, don't forget bowl game selection on Sunday. Can't wait.
I did
but
forget.
That does give Matt Campbell this period to kind of get to know this roster and come in and lay down his vision. I will tell you from people I talked to in my get familiar with Matt Campbell crash course, or Matt Campbell. That's great.
Matt Campbell. There it is.
Yeah, there we go. But yeah, make sure our producer cuts that one, sends that out there. From my crash course on getting familiar with him, he is described as a player's coach, as a motivator, as a culture driver. Like, I was kind of getting some Franklin vibes and again, Iowa State's different because you have to build there. They were not a portal heavy program because also you couldn't be. And quite frankly, they didn't have the resources to be the big portal players throwing money at people, which we can get into all that. But yeah, I think that's kind of our baseline.
Yeah. And I think this next question, I agree with everything you said. I think, you know what I mean? Like, Terry is an important part of this. Like, he is, how do I say this? Penn State wants to retain the players it values most on this roster. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a coincidence that roster retention for a team that went 6-6 is a high priority, right? Like, if it was that high of a priority, Terry would have been the head coach, right? But I just don't think it is. I think, you're 6-16. You probably need to bring in more talent and more high-end talent. But I think the young talent is what they want to keep. And those kinds of guys, I think, will get, fair compensation, essentially, to stay. And Penn State will try to keep them. Not guaranteeing that it happens, but I think it's possible.
Hey, because, John, we heard in an audio leak that Penn State had roughly a top 4 roster financially. Yeah, so just throwing that out there. We'll
get there. There's some questions in the chat about that one. Someone asked this, and I think this is a really good question. Prior to seeing what the roster will be, what's your floor and ceiling for next season record-wise? And I like this question before the roster's set because we know the schedule, we know the coach, and this is, I think, a good way to discuss what kind of roster we think he can build and what kind of how many wins that kind of roster can get and what is an easy schedule.
Yeah, I think the floor is 8-4. I mean, I think that's and maybe that's a little bit maybe that's a little high, honestly. But I think with again, this is still Penn State, right? This is still football in the Big Ten. This is a premier program, despite, we saw this job floundering out there for a while. We saw everybody else kind of fill the seats at the table. You're still Penn State. You're going to want to get players that come here. Quite frankly, I think Matt Campbell's going to do a good job of winning people over with his personality and kind of getting that buy-in. Now, does that happen right away? Because that's the critical piece of this. I would say that the floor is 8-4 because it is a soft schedule next year. I hate to say this because please, do not take this out of context.
No, I'm gonna.
Next season only. I feel like 10-2 is probably the thing. So please do not drag me for the, oh my God, 10-2. James always was 10-2. Again, you're going to look at significant transition with this roster. That's the thing you have to take into account. I also, while I'm saying the 8-4 to 10-2 piece, I want to add, because I saw some of this out there today. And I saw a lot of, and again, I get some of this was Iowa State fans saying, oh my God, don't go to Penn State because you're our guy. Don't leave us. But hey, if you don't win at all, or if you're not a 10-11 win team, they're going to fire you right away. Don't forget the context of all of this, right? Like, again, James Franklin was not fired because of 3 games, right? We can look at that sample size, but it was part of the bigger picture after being here 11 plus years. So again, it's not a knee-jerk thing. But yeah, I feel like 8-4 is probably what we're looking at. I mean, again, it's going to be a rebuild. Are we aligned on this? Oh, do we have the A word? Are we aligned?
No. Shout out to my wife, by the way, who very discreetly just came in and refilled.
No, not discreetly at all. I saw your eyes moving, so I kept riffing.
That's on me. That's not on her. That's on me, to be clear. So shout out to Liz for that.
Liz. That's Saint Liz.
Yes, especially dealing with me. I think the range is a tad bit wider on both sides, right? Like, I think it's 7-5 to 11-1. And again, as we find out what the roster is, like, we'll narrow that and make predictions, obviously, all that stuff. Because the schedule is relatively easy. I do think he needs to go in and get a roster. Like, I think, honestly, I say that 9-3 is what I would expect, right? Before we know anyone that's on the roster, just based on who the coach is, what we know about his ability to bring in talent, the amount of funds that it seems that they're going to dedicate, all that stuff. I think 9-3 is sort of the expectation there. I do think like 11-1 is like the schedule is not that difficult, right? Like I think there's a real chance, and he's a really good coach.
That's also, we don't know, right? Who else is going to be in that portal window, January 2nd, kind of when the stuff hits the fan, right? What are these other teams on the schedule? Who are they going to bring in? Who are they going to lose? That's kind of the other unknown. But yeah, not knowing anything. Okay, so we're in the 8 to 9 win range.
Yeah, I think that's right. Okay. And I still think the ceiling is potentially higher, depending on quarterback they bring in and everything like that. We'll talk about that stuff more too. Someone asked about the pink and black uniforms, and I don't expect those next year. I would not be surprised if those make a return at some point in the future, though. Not a return. Well, I guess
that's why I wore pink tonight, and I don't know.
Yeah, right. Someone actually mentioned you wearing red because you're leaving, I think, to the Iowa State beat. That was
it's pink. It's pink.
That's what I said.
It's actually my favorite color. I'm sorry if the lighting's really not great. Maybe. It's pink.
Yeah. Here we go with this. This is who leaked the craft video. I think this is a good place to talk about this.
Well,
I am able to say that was a meeting. Let me caveat that. Before I get myself in trouble.
Let me grab my recorder. Can you say this again?
Yeah. I'm under the impression that was a meeting with the leadership council that was requested by the players. Not comfortable trying to guess who leaked it or whatever, but like that's what that was. And I think I've seen a lot of interesting reactions to it. Anyone who's had any kind of interaction with Pat Kraft is probably not all too surprised. Like it's just kind of who he is and how he's very upfront, right? Like he's very, how he's feeling, I guess. We've seen it at press conferences and everything too. Like he's very straightforward, and that's how he was in there.
One of the first quotes I got when I was working on the Hey Penn State hired Pat Kraft story, who is this guy? What do I need to know? Troy Dannon, now the AD at Nebraska, who's known Pat for a while. I reached out to him. People connected me. We talked. And the quote that he said, and it stuck with me, was, "You will never have to wonder what Pat Kraft is thinking, whether it's Big Ten meetings or not. He's going to tell you, right? He's going to be forward." And here's what else I will say about the audio leak, right? So if you've been away from all of this, you're not sure, maybe you're an Iowa State fan, a video gets leaked super late Thursday night, technically Friday morning, appears on, I guess, like a YouTube platform, I guess is I don't know how we describe it, but again, I've spent the semester, obviously doing this as my full-time job, but also in grad school, working the semester studying artificial intelligence and different AI practices. So initially my response is, well, I can spot all the fakes. This is a deep fake. I don't need to watch this. But I clicked play and then I was like, oh no, I recognize these voices. This is not a deep fake. Like, this is not. Like, I've spent the whole semester. It's all alive. This is real. And so then I kept listening. It's 36 minutes. It's widely available out there if you're curious.
Don't listen to it in front of your children. Is my
yes. A lot of fighters for those of you out there familiar with the deep cuts.
Real quick, just a question, just a little break in the middle. What's the over under on F-bombs in the Kraft leak? Has anyone counted? Probably under
409.
It's probably, that number is lower than a normal conversation that Audrey and I have off air. So
I mean, listen,
it's how he talks. Like it's
amazing. I do a lot of censoring on here. It's amazing. John and I are still able to speak on YouTube.
I have been told by my mentor, by like people that really know me, who watch the podcast, who are stunned that I haven't gotten myself in trouble with swearing, basically, because there's no real filter off air. It's difficult at times. It slips through on occasion, but we both, specifically on this podcast, it is a stunner that it doesn't happen more often. It's just how the guy talks. It's how, frankly, I know and I understand, like, some people don't like that, and I respect that.
And maybe you don't want to hear that from an administrator, or you're an
right,
academic,
and I get that.
And it's like, oh my gosh,
but it's who he is.
We talk to our athletes like that. Like, it's an honest conversation, and it's also a conversation that was done in private, and that to me is the bigger piece of this. Like, the challenging piece of this is, John, you know how many times I've been yelled at, I've been berated.
Do we want to talk about this?
That we cover, by head coaches that we've covered. Perhaps the time I've been berated at the 50-yard line and asked to read something I wrote in front of a group. And you know what I didn't do? I didn't record it and share it because that's not what you do, right? Like, be an adult, have the conversation, respect that the person's having the conversation with you. Don't leak it. Like, to me, that's the bigger issue of, oh, it's a meeting with your leadership council, and then this gets out there because, like, I guess someone has an axe to grind with the AD. Again, 18 to 23-year-olds. It is a two-party consent state, by the way, in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's a felony. It's not nothing's going to happen with that, but it is a felony. Like, you can't do
just
that.
Just fun fact.
As people who record conversations for interviews, like we always, like, you have to ask someone permission to do that sort of thing. I do want to go back to what you said though, and present a hypothetical scenario where someone is talking with a group of people, maybe some beat writers, for instance, and is unhappy with what someone wrote, and I just couldn't imagine, in turn, just laying into that beat writer and over an innocuous thing at that. And I am grateful some days we don't have to deal with people like that all the time, especially anymore. And I do think it is worth noting that, sometimes your friends have your back too in those situations, and some other people speak up. But yeah, it's I will say that is a sign of maturity is when someone is, and by the way, these players weren't even being yelled at. They were having a conversation, right? Like they were having a conversation that they requested. I think there's more merit if you're standing at the 50-yard line after a football practice and getting yelled at in a hypothetical scenario, for instance. But that's just me. Like, I think you would have more merit to record such a thing and be pretty pissed off about it. But we're adults. That's not the kind of thing you do. And I'll say it. Like, I think it's cowardly to record that kind of thing, specifically when you are requesting that meeting. That's like you're trapping someone, right? Like you're trying to trap them. And I think it's gross, and I think it's childish, and I think there should be a level of shame that you feel for doing something like that.
This is also, and I think you could kind of take this conversation another way if you wanted to, that these athletes are paid now. They're highly compensated. You could take this as like a State of the Union, right? A board meeting. Boy, I've sat through plenty of those Zooms in my career where it's like, hey guys, this wasn't good enough, right? Pro tip, if they keep sending you the Zoom link and your performance review gets moved to a Friday late in the day, not a good sign. Pro tip.
No.
But
when you get a phone call from that person like 3 minutes after that meeting was supposed to start, you're gonna have to be a supportive friend that day. Yeah,
like delete.
Not what you want.
But that's like and again, it's college football. These are still mostly 18 to 23-year-olds. They're going through a lot. They're angry. Yeah. I just like the audio leak was not on my coaching search bingo card. I tweeted out Friday morning that, boy, at some point when the oral history of the 2025 Penn State football season is told, it's going to be a heck of a story, and not for any of the reasons that we thought. I mean, this is just another bizarre layer. I think it also sheds light on a little bit of the locker room dynamic that Matt Campbell's stepping into. And again, it helps with Terry Smith and trying to change maybe some minds. But you know what? It's a 6-6 team. If players are fed up here, if they don't feel like their voice was heard, go elsewhere. Like that's the beauty of the transfer portal. Like, I get it. Sometimes a change of scenery can be good for both sides. You have that opportunity. If you're a James Franklin guy and you're upset because he wasn't retained here and you feel like he was wronged in this and that, you're allowed to feel that. That's fine. Like, like you can kind of figure that out, go where you want to go. That's the era of the sport that we're in. But yeah, I just think it's cowardly to record that because, again, we all talk differently. Well, except not really John and I. When the cameras are off, we swear more, but the conversations are just as erratic.
Yes. Look at your phone, Audrey. Someone said, and I can answer this one quickly. How much different would things look with future classes if this hire was announced a month ago? This hire couldn't have been made a month ago. It could have been made. When did Iowa State play? Was it Saturday? I think it could have been made when they finished their season.
Probably, yeah. Had to be last week, yeah. Because we just covered a Rutgers game 6 days ago.
That's crazy to me. Wow. But yeah, like 6 days ago. So I don't think it would have changed much. Maybe, there are more. Well, obviously there would be more commits in the 2026 class, but those guys can go in the portal in January already, right? Like, it's not the craziest thing in the world for that to happen. We saw that with Cal's quarterback, whose name I don't want to butcher because out of respect to him, but the 5-star freshman quarterback, Jackson Sagapatele, I believe.
Excuse me, you said I didn't hear. Can you say that again?
Absolutely not. I am not doing that. I did nothing to you. Someone asked, what about Terry, as Audrey and I said, and we'll mention this throughout. We apologize.
Yeah, the anticipation is that Terry Smith, the anticipation is that he's going to stay at Penn State. I don't know what the role is.
Yeah, I think that's important too. Because someone did ask that. What's the role? We're not certain of it. I do know that Iowa State has a pretty good cornerbacks coach and familiar name for Steelers fans, and Hank Poteet. And he's from he's from Philly, played high school in Harrisburg, and went to Pitt and played with the Steelers. So assuming he has connections across state, wouldn't be surprised if they try and figure something out to keep both those guys. Because this is a situation where Campbell. So if you look at Campbell's staff, like his offensive coordinator was also his tight ends coach. He's going to have more staff than that here. Like his coordinators won't have to be position coaches if he doesn't want them to be, because they rotate through like how they send guys out on the road. It doesn't have to be, you know what I mean? Like the coordinators don't have to recruit if they want to. So if he wants those numbers, he can have them. I did see someone asked about the sort of undermining throughout the process. And I don't want to get too much into this because you're talking gossip and rumors and stuff. What I feel comfortable saying, and I'll let you add anything if you want, is there are certainly people that have their best interests at heart and less so Penn State's, and they want to be the center of attention. And so when they get the opportunity, they try to undermine things to draw attention to themselves. You can add anything you'd like there, but I think it's pretty clear that not everybody wants, they want what they want. They don't want what's actually best.
Yeah, this is a unique place, right? As someone who's been here, God, since 2008, when I came here as a student at Penn State, had no intention of staying, and spoiler alert, still here. And as someone who lives here, who sees it year round, it's a unique place, right? Which also came up in the audio leak. It's a remote place.
Yes.
But in terms of the factions and people pushing narratives and pushing agendas, that is a legitimate problem here. And again, I'm not familiar enough with other universities to say that this happens everywhere, but I do know that this is unique in that, the end of the Joe Paterno era, I was covering that. Like I covered a year and a half of Joe, all of O'Brien, all of James Franklin. And here I am at the start of the Matt Campbell era. Boy, I just keep outlasting people. Shocking, really. But I think when you look at pushing agendas and pushing what you want, what's the reason for that, right? Like, why is that? What do people hope to gain? And what I will tell you, John, is that talking to people throughout this coaching search, one of the questions that people with the search kept getting is about Penn State and the factions with the board, and how do you navigate that? And how do you navigate kind of the Paterno faction and the Joe Paterno legacy, right? And we got into this a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about the 409 button and how it's not just a button because it's a bigger, broader context here. And there's people who are still unwilling, they say, to give their money because of that, and so on and so forth. And I don't want to make this a show about that because it's really complex, and I'm trying to be as nuanced as I can about it. And like, I get
it's like a 4-hour show on its own. Like
at least, 4 hours and
9 minutes,
10 minutes, maybe
probably 9 minutes, if I had to guess.
It is complex. It is unique to this place, right? And that's why I always, throw the 409 number out there. And honestly, John, that's because whenever I have friends visit or family visit that aren't familiar with the area, they're like, what is this number? Why do I see 409 on bumper stickers? Why do I see it around town? And it is Joe Paterno's win total, for those who are unaware. It's just part of the fabric of this place. So again, James Franklin said several times that when he got here, he did not fully understand the scope of this job because of the board, because of navigating this complex past of this university and the football program. So like, it's part of the story here. Like, that's why we talk about it, because it matters. It's part of it. But boy, it is tough to try and navigate that.
Yeah, no, I think that that is really well put. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I think it's important to talk about that because that is a part of this process. And like, again, I understand people being frustrated with how the search played out, but to quote Nate again, you got to run the race. Like none of that other stuff. Oh boy, almost had the first swear.
They landed the plane.
Yeah, right? None of the other stuff matters as long as you get someone that is good at the job. And I said it, I feel like hundreds of times on this podcast. At the end of the day, you're kind of guessing, right? Like you're hoping that coach can do what they do well at a higher level at your school and because of your resources and can take your program to the next level. But you're kind of guessing, right? Like I think Matt Campbell, what he did at Iowa State is remarkable. I've been quoting this everywhere I can. Iowa State in the last 100+ years, I think it's like 107 years, something like that, has 10 8-win seasons, or like seasons with 8 wins or more. Over the last 40 years, they have 6 of those seasons. Matt Campbell has 5 of them. Like, it is, I cannot stress enough how bad of a job that is, frankly, like, and how downtrodden they are. One of the
worst in the country.
I think it might be the worst Power 4 job in the country. I think, if I'm probably not forgetting anyone off the top of my head, but I think that is like the worst job in the country. And what he did is remarkable. He was really good at Toledo, but I understand anyone with apprehension there. Toledo, from a resource standpoint, is way ahead of the rest of the MAC, or at least was a couple of years ago. That's why Jason Candle does so well there. Jason Candle's a good coach too, to be clear, but like, I do think that's part of it. Like, they have in the MAC, they have good resources. So he did a lot with good resources in the MAC at that level. And then he had limited resources in the Big 12, and he did a good job. The fact that they had 11 wins last year is like
wild,
unbelievable. Like, that's not a level that program ever reaches. And
this is also, and I hit on a little bit earlier with the recruiting piece and the challenges at Iowa State. And again, I've been doing my Cyclones crash course here. One of the things, when you look at revenue sharing, we know that Penn State is going to continue to go all in on their spending with football. Like, that's the bread and butter. We know that to be true. We know that's going to continue. I think, and again, this is just me speaking, I think that is probably a reason why Matt Campbell finally made the jump and left Iowa State, because you look at it, this is a guy who had the opportunity to go and coach the Detroit Lions a few years ago, which, I mean, hey, you're probably going to lose to the Packers anyway, so why would you take that job?
All right, easy there. I think the Jets too, if I remember correctly.
There were
some. I don't know if that one's out there. So if
and then the Lions hired the other Campbell, Dan Campbell, who's done a wonderful job there. And again, I'm taking these Lions jabs. If you're new, I'm a Packers fan. So, which also, by the way, John, former Cyclone wide receiver Alan Lazard.
Yes.
Fun fact.
Yes. A little bit of a downgrade from Puka Nacua potentially being around the program.
That would have been super fun. But it's a difficult job. It's let's recruit the best we can in the Midwest, in our region, in our area, while knowing that we're going up against Iowa, while knowing that we're going to have to fight Minnesota for some of these guys. And let's develop the heck out of these guys. Let's bank on our talent evaluations and see what happens. And they've been really successful with that. Again, for fans that are maybe skeptical of the Matt Campbell hire, think about it this way. Again, this is the guy the Detroit Lions threw a lot of money at and tried to hire just a few years ago. He said no. He said no to staying there and committing to continue building at Iowa State at a difficult job. I think that's also notable when you look at the college game and why we've seen so many college coaches go the other way and want to get to the NFL because of the transfer portal and roster retention and all these other things college coaches have to deal with. What I was told, like, this guy is a ball coach, right? Like, this is someone who loves the game. Someone told me, they said, I would not be surprised. Like, this guy could be happy coaching high school football because he just loves the game and loves the game planning and getting in the weeds with it. The other piece of this, there were overtures with him and USC before they hired Lincoln Riley. And so that's, again, like, so if you're thinking like, oh, I don't know about this guy, I just scanned the record, I'm not so sure. This is kind of what other people in the football community think about him.
Yes. I'll lean on this phrase again. I am under the impression, was that number 7 time I've said it tonight, that had Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma. Okay, we're not doing that.
Sorry.
I'm the young person in this podcast. We are not doing that.
If people have young listeners,
no,
I couldn't
absolutely
let that
not.
one fly.
No. I am under the impression that Matt Campbell, had Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma won their last game that season, that Matt Campbell would have been the head coach at USC. And I would not be surprised if the way that kind of panned out made it less desirable for him to kind of go through these processes, right? Like it's like, okay, now what, right? Like I would not be surprised if that impact his kind of willingness to put himself out there. That being said, I had always heard like he's from Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Notre Dame, like those kind of schools. It was always him and Luke Fickell, right? Were the guys that were said like that sort of range of school. I'm not surprised in the slightest that he was highly interested in this job. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if he is here for a very long time. And I, speaking of people being here, I do want to bring this up. By the way, someone asked where my hat is. Worth noting, the Roback hat is always on deck, and this is probably a good time to discuss.
Tell them about our friends at Roback.
Yeah, why
not? Because believe it or not, once we all glance at the calendar, it is December. Holiday season is in full swing. Our friends over at Roback can help you save 20% off your first purchase when you use code TND20. That's TND20, as in the Nittany Dispatch 20. To save 20% off of your purchase at Roback. Hats, joggers, hoodies. Again, you can dress with just like John if you'd like. It is it's been Roback weather, honestly, around here. And then just like the last couple of days, we've really gotten into the depths of winter in State College. So gonna have to put the winter coat on over the Roback hoodie, John. But you know what? We can make it happen. But again, check out our friends over at Roback. Use code TND20 to save 20% off of your first purchase. And you can still check out the Penn State collection over there.
Yes.
Get geared up for the new era of Penn State football, which is upon us.
Yes, we'll be here sooner than you know it. Something that I would like to point out, I appreciate Jacob saying this in the chat, that Pete Thamel with a tweet about Terry, and he gave credit to Audrey, which is
thank you,
not a thing you always see, and not a courtesy I guess all of us on this podcast get.
I don't know what you're talking about, big guy.
I'm just saying. I appreciate Audrey and everyone else who gave.
Listen, John's he's the guy at the local paper, and here's what I will say about this. As people,
we don't have to do this if you don't want to. By the way,
as people who cover teams day to day, right?
Yeah,
we're the boots on the ground. We're the people living in State College, and coaching searches draw a lot of attention nationally, as they should, right? They're big stories, they're national stories. You're impacting multiple fan bases. Those other outlets, national outlets, many of them, most of them will leave. John and I are still going to be here writing about this team, telling stories about the Matt Campbell era, because we are local reporters, and there's a level of nuance to what we do. John does a tremendous job over at the Center Daily Times, which is the local paper here in Center County, hence the spelling.
Checks out.
But again, like we're the boots on the ground, so we're gonna keep being here, keep informing you guys as best we can, because that's the job. We love covering this sport. We love covering the craziness of this sport, and that's certainly what this past month has been. 2 months, really.
It has been wild, and I think you're right. Right, like we'll be here throughout. And to be clear, this episode is not over. I genuinely
we're just getting started.
I don't know if we're at the halfway point yet, because every time I scroll down, like there's like 80 more questions, and I can't say enough how much both I and Audrey appreciate you. As I realized right as we started this that the Sixers game was starting at 8, and I was like, I should have waited. But anyways, we will be here for a while taking questions. So please, if you have questions, leave them in the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button down below, hit the subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it. Some questions here. Are we surprised that it's 8 years? Not really. Campbell had leverage, right? Like this was, listen, from the outside, it looked like a pretty dire situation. I don't know that it was dire, but it certainly wasn't great. And so he was able to get some additional stuff, right? Like he was able to get those assurances that, as Matt Fortuna of Inside Zone, that you can subscribe to on Substack as well, reported initially, I believe, you can kind of fight for those things to give yourself your best chance possible when you have leverage, and he had it.
Yeah, he had it. And here's what else I want to mention about, again, my Matt Campbell crash course. This is not a guy, and the past 10 years at Iowa State speak to this. This is not a leveraging guy. This is not a, hey, I'm a climber, right? Which, again, that was James Franklin. That was what was attached to him when he got here. And I've told this story before. When James got here, my thought was like, all right, this guy's going to be here maybe 3-4 years, build this program, move on to some other job, right? Because that had been his background. That is not Matt Campbell. This is a guy who's had opportunities to climb, who's had opportunities to leverage. And now it's about, again, it's the assistant staff pool. It's about, making this into what you want it to be. And that's where we know Penn State's going to spend. And John, the last time Penn State went in, pulled away a head coach at Iowa State.
What happened there?
Jamie Pollard there. Worked out pretty darn good because, of course, as listeners know, because it was happening tonight, wrestling, that was Cale Sanderson. And boy, I had a really fun time a few years ago pulling back the curtains on that search. And Penn State flew into Des Moines, actually, that time because they were a little bit worried about it getting out. So I will say,
flew straight into Ames this time.
Straight in. Do we know anything about their runway there? How is it longer?
No,
Probably
I'm getting ahead of this now.
Sorry,
No.
I'll stop. No. I was told I do not think this is a head coach who's going to make any complaints about the local runway. Again, I could be wrong.
I don't think he'll complain about a lot, honestly. I think he is not, like you said, that's kind of not his style. A couple important things. One, I will show this on the screen, and then I will say something else first, and then you can answer this. No, it's an important question. Someone wants to know what you're drinking, Audrey. Real quick, though, being reported by Pete Nakos of On3 that Campbell is working to bring defensive coordinator John Heacock with him to Happy Valley. We'll talk about that here in a second. Audrey, what are you drinking?
So to be fully transparent, I just reached in my fridge and was like, okay, what should I look at? What do I want to have tonight? And it is a Harpoon Winter Warmer Holiday Ale with cinnamon and nutmeg. That's what they tell me. So, hey, John, maybe they want to be a sponsor.
There we go. Yeah, and listen, no free plugs, so go ahead.
Yeah,
cough it up eventually. So there's a question in the chat that someone nailed something at about 8:57 about what took so long on Matt Campbell, and they asked a very specific thing, and I'm not going to answer that question. But yeah,
what did they ask?
Just about potentially the reasoning on why it took so long, and we'll do some digging on that.
I got you. Why wasn't he among the first candidates? Because again, John, there was a reporter on here, and again, I don't remember if you had this or not, but there was a reporter who had like 5 names of candidates on her Substack inside the Lions, where she said initially, "Hey, if I was Penn State and I was making this hire, these are the 5 candidates I'd be picking from." And you know who I had among those names in there? Matt Campbell.
Yep,
and as I went through my process and I narrowed it down to 3, I also had Matt Campbell on there. As I sat at a lovely brewery in Coralville, Iowa, the night before the Penn State Iowa game, John, that's when I knew. I looked at it and I turned my head and I saw this awesome Cyclones logo, and I was going to buy a beer to support their collective, but they didn't have any. So again, this speaks to just how rough things perhaps are going at Iowa State, that they didn't have any beers available for me to try and test out their beer. Just to be like, all right, cool. But the logo was awesome. So at that moment, John, I said, you know what? It'd be pretty cool if they hired Matt Campbell, because it makes sense. Here we are almost 2 months later.
I do think there were some circumstances that occurred that led to maybe a disconnect in the impression of how much interest there was from Campbell's end early on. We'll try to continue to do more digging, and I don't feel comfortable saying
we'll have an
more than that right now. Yeah,
probably some point next week. We'll get the intro presser. We'll get our questions in.
To be clear, I want to make sure before I pop this next one up that this is not a shot at Chris. He's always in here asking questions. Someone said, Chris said, I need to cough up some dough to read your stories. Yes, that is how I make money. This is my living. This is my job.
John,
and I would appreciate it.
Lights behind you? Are they
Yes,
on?
They're on. They're above me, actually.
Always a good day when the lights are on around here.
Yeah, I would appreciate anyone who does subscribe. And I know Audrey feels the same way about her Substack at insidethelions.substack.com. But I know people have issues with paywalls. I understand that. Like you don't want to pay when you think you can get it for free.
We do this podcast as a free service because I don't want to cut people out of coverage, right? Like I think people, it's your team, you love it. And hey, listen, as someone who spent part of this year out of work, I get it, right? Times can be tough, times can change, circumstances can change. That's why we keep this show the way it is, because we want to, have access to everybody. But yeah, I always say, John, I'm sure we'll agree with this, like the best part of what we do is behind the paywall, because that's what keeps the lights on.
Yeah, and we try and bring as much of that as we can here, but yeah, there's always going to be more there, probably more depth there. Like the story before he was fired on James Franklin that I had, that it's one of the things I'm most proud of. It's just always how it's going to be. Someone question here: when do we think Campbell will have a press conference? Audrey, I believe the Board of Trustees thing's probably going to be Monday.
Yeah,
which would point to Monday or Tuesday.
So the Board of Trustees basically has to like rubber stamp this, right? Like the compensation terms go through the board. I'm going to be fully honest, John. I don't know if they work on the weekends. Like I mean, I get it that they have Zoom and all of that, but I don't know. So then it becomes a matter of like, how soon can they get here, right? Like how soon does Matt Campbell get here? I would anticipate early next week, having that press conference, which also between now and then, presumably, is bowl selection on Sunday with interim head coach Terry Smith. And typically Penn State, the head coach talks shortly after the bowl game is announced, whether that's pinstripe or whatever it may be. I would anticipate that we hear from Terry, but again, I could be wrong. It's a different circumstance this year. But yeah, I would hope that we hear from Matt Campbell next week. And I could tell you, John and I will be there. We'll be there ready to go, and we will be chatting with you all after that as well.
And we will be in the same seats that we are always in because we are always present, which is half the battle with this job. Someone asked something I think we addressed on the last episode, but I think it's worth addressing again. Is there any truth to Jimmy Sexton causing issues in his coaching search?
Not that I'm worried about. No.
Yeah. Listen, Jimmy Sexton would probably be fired by his clients if he was intentionally steering them away from a job that they wanted or that could help them get more money or whatever, right? Like, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, he's great at his job, as everyone knows, because he's a massive pain in the ass to the people that he is negotiating with, and like that's what he has to do, right? It's like Scott Boras in Major League Baseball. We're seeing it right now.
Down.
Yeah, Major League Baseball free agency takes forever because Scott Boras is awesome at his job. So yeah, I think that's just,
also too like the way these guys get paid, right? It's about the contracts for their clients. So like, why would you limit that, right? Like, I don't understand that.
Yeah, there is a question that I'm looking for as I scroll back up because I missed it. Someone asked, did they cancel those meetings? No, Audrey, you can address this more directly.
Yes. So no, they did not. So the board of trustees meetings, right? That's what we're referring to.
Yeah.
So the way it happens at Penn State is because they're a public institution, but they try to operate like a private institution on many things, which as a journalist, like there's a lot of challenges with covering this place, a lot of pushbacks covering the university. So in a situation like this, Penn State has to publicly announce the compensation committee that they're going to have a meeting, right? Like they have to stand there, not actually, but they have to stand there with their megaphone and basically say, hey, we're going to have this meeting about this matter. Greg Pickle of On3 reported that there were meetings on the website on Friday and people were like, okay, get ready. It's happening, right? They all sent out the Office GIF. And Penn State's response was that it was like an IT glitch, that the meetings were just added and since removed. But yeah, all that stuff it'll get done. I mean, that's just like, it is just a formality at this point. Yep. I understand if you're like apprehensive about like, oh boy, like I get it after, Tuesday night and all of that, but this is much different. Like this is happening. It's with certainty. Matt Campbell has told his team, Penn State's players are aware of what's happening. Like, don't be leery.
The deal is done. I would not have reported it as that being set to hire him if the deal was not done. Question here from JW, since we wouldn't address the other question specifically. I'll have you know this is the first time I've ever put a question up that has spelled my name wrong, but we kind of owe him this because he did ask about the
you got mine right.
Stuff. Yeah, I mean, fair play. What are the chances of Penn State scheduling a game against Virginia Tech? I'm betting Penn State would love to do that.
Good.
I'm betting James Franklin wants nothing to do with that.
The other guy wants no part of that, right? Remember, James Franklin was so mad after Penn State beat the daylights out of Auburn a few years ago down there, and he was asked afterward about the future of the series and why don't you guys want to do this more because it's fun for the fans, and he just went into this mode about the Big Ten schedule and scheduling and. Yeah, we don't need to rehash all the James's scheduling problems.
Yeah, we don't.
Virginia Tech, you guys can talk about that now. But yeah, I don't think we see it. I would love to see it. Maybe we will get so fortunate to see it in a bowl setting. That would be awesome.
It would be wonderful.
But yeah, I mean, hey John, maybe I could ask him a few more questions. I have always got things to ask.
I just continue to see people asking about Brian Hartline, and I have to think it's part of the bit at this point.
It's got to be a bit at this point, right?
I feel fully comfortable saying it now that he is the head coach at South Florida again, or not again, but I feel comfortable saying it again now that he's at South Florida because I've said this off air plenty. There was no chance that he was going to be Penn State's head coach. None. Zero. Zilch. He was never a realistic candidate. No. Urban Meyer recommended him. He wanted him to be the next head coach. Penn State wanted nothing to do with Brian Hartline. And from what I understand, their stance is fully justified. Notice that Chris Henry Jr., even when Brian Hartline leaves, is still going to Ohio State. Ohio State recruits itself. Yes, Hartline's a good recruiter. It's a lot harder when you don't have that O on your chest. And it's a lot harder when you are the person in charge and you are tasked with being a leader of people and being the one to set the example. I think it's probably best to leave that at that before I say too much. It's also,
too, when you said about having the O in the chest, I remember when James Franklin and his staff got here, and so many of those guys, again, these were ultimately a staff of, at that time, younger guys coming up through the profession. They were grinding around the clock to get here. And I remember so many of those guys saying, man, it is so different when you walk into a high school and you've got the Penn State logo on your chest, right? And like you have the chance to say, hey, this is who we are. This is what we do. That I think we're going to see a similar response with these Iowa State folks and whoever kind of migrates here with Matt Campbell's staff. It is different. It's a different brand, right? It's a different level. It's a different opportunity to perhaps get into conversations with people that you weren't having before because of the level of your program. So to me, again, I view this as a look at the potential, look at the upside of bringing in Matt Campbell and this staff. That's where I'm at on it. Again, I could be wrong. We'll find out. And if I am, I'm sure many of you will remind me, and that's okay. But I think that's where, like, you look at, they just signed their 2026 class, right? They're about 50th nationally. Which was like a historic class for them. That was a really good haul. So I was fielding a question earlier today in my subscriber chat, which has also been super fun. We have been chatting through it this week over on my Substack Inside the Lions. And someone had mentioned that with recruiting. And they said, well, okay, it's a top 50 class. Like James was consistently doing better. And my rebuttal to that is, yes, this is a different beast now and a different opportunity that Matt Campbell will have. And so we're going to get to see, right? Like, how does that recruiting template change? How does the ability to have access financially to more resources, how does that part change? Because these guys, like their bread and butter had to be at Iowa State identifying and developing talent, because that's what you have to do at a program at that level. And to their credit, they were able to keep so many of these guys. Like, they weren't living in the portal. And you look at their roster, they have guys that could have left and gotten bigger paydays elsewhere. And they didn't. And they stayed with Matt Campbell in part because of that culture, right? And so I think that's an important piece, because I think you're getting a program building type.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
As my AirPod falls out.
Yeah, no, hot start there, or hot continuation there. There was someone who mentioned earlier that they, when I mentioned that I was the young person on this pod, that they thought that I was older than you, which is a fun game for me because I once had.
Thank you.
I once had
so
an
much.
NFL scout be bewildered when I think at the time I was like 27. He's like, "Oh, I thought you're like 38." I was like, No, I'm currently 30.
It's the coffee, John. That's what's doing it to you.
It's the beard. It's always the beard. Question here from JW. Who is the most important staff member to retain now that Terry is there? And I like this question a lot because I do think there could be some retention potentially.
That's a good one. Gosh, let me think about this for a second.
I think the answer is someone that I don't anticipate being retained.
Well, I was going to say Ty Howell. I don't think is probably going to be here.
I would anticipate Ty Howell being at Virginia Tech next year, but I do think it's him, and I think Anthony Poindexter is probably the other one.
Yeah, I like Dex is a really good call. I think that's probably. Yeah, I mean, I would go Dex. I mean, Danny O'Brien is a James guy. Deion Barnes, I don't think we saw the D-line take as many steps as we thought they would. Obviously, we outlined Terry is going to be here. I don't think we'll see Phil Troutwine here.
No, speaking of catching strays in that audio leak.
Marcus Higgins, I don't think we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I think we're looking at a full, pretty much a full reset. But yeah, I think Poindexter, when you look at the play of the safeties, what these guys have been able to do, I would say him. And again, just a kind of first blush, I don't know if Dex has any ties to guys on this staff. That I do not know. I haven't looked that deeply into it just yet.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. But I think Dex is just a really good coach. They have good safeties constantly. And I would have said Terry Smith, but they're retaining Terry Smith, as Audrey originally reported here on the Nittany Dispatch and on our Substack at Inside Lions.
Okay, we're a breaking news platform, John.
That's right. Someone asked about what the Campbell burger at the field is. I don't even want to take a guess. I don't know what the guy's dietary habits are. We gotta figure that out first. We'll circle back.
So here's the thing: a lot of people, and this is going to be a broader discussion, that Ohio is Midwest, and I don't know. I never thought of it as Midwest, but it kind of is. So is he a Midwest guy? What's on the burger? That's maybe, John. Maybe I will use my question at the intro presser to ask. Yeah, and then I'll get booed out of the media room. I don't need that.
No. I don't know. I think that would have happened already if that was the standard.
That's true.
The question here that I think a lot of people have been asking, does Penn State get Rocco back? We don't know. It's certainly not impossible. I wouldn't be surprised if Campbell brings 20 plus guys with him from Iowa State. My anticipation when it was going to be Satake was that number would have been potentially in the 30s, right? That would have followed him from BYU. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's the case from Iowa State. I will say Beck is a good quarterback, will be sought after he goes in the portal. There's also a chance Penn State swings higher, right? Like I think they're going to be chasing the best quarterbacks available. If that's Beck, then great. If it's not, great, right? I think they're going to pay up for a quarterback this year. I also think it's worth mentioning, unless you have any thoughts there on Beck.
No, we're good. We're
good.
Yeah.
The offensive staff, I'm very curious to see here because I saw some questions about that.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of them. It is going to be interesting to see, like Taylor Mauser, I believe is how you pronounce his name. The offensive coordinator / tight ends coach at Iowa State is a little inexperienced. Their offense wasn't great
like
this
34.
year. Yeah, and he's only in his second year as an OC. I wouldn't be surprised if they go for someone sort of more high profile, and he's maybe the tight ends coach at Penn State, or he's even potentially stayed at Iowa State. I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Not guaranteeing that happens. He could be Penn State's offensive coordinator, but it would make sense to me if he was the tight ends coach at Penn State, continued learning, because Penn State has used that position specifically, tight ends coach, as sort of a feeder spot to the offensive coordinator role, so you can learn under the offensive coordinator. I wouldn't be surprised if that were his role at Penn State and they bring in someone that has kind of more of a profile because, as Fortuna reported, they're expected to have $17 million for assistants and staff. And, that is more than enough to go get a high-profile offensive coordinator if Campbell so wishes.
Now, you've also got the Jim Knowles, Andy Kotelnicki piece of this too, right? Which that's when you talk about like eating money and resetting and those kinds of things, that's going to be just kind of how this thing plays out, right? Like I think we're leaning more toward a full reset than anything else. And so, I mean, we'll see, but yeah, I mean, their DC is, I believe he's 65 years old, I believe.
Yeah. And like I said, Nakos was reporting that he's going to make an effort to bring him to Penn State, which I think is interesting. I do like, I don't love his defensive scheme. They run a 3-3-5. I think a 4-2-5 is better. I would be curious. Maybe he alters that because it's easier to recruit to a 4-2-5 when you have more talent available. But yeah, I don't love a 3-3-5. They could make it work. I'm not saying they can't, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the other piece too, is like, all right, if your DC wants to come with you, this is someone who has been with him for a long time. So you look at the connecting points there, like these are his guys. We so often talked about James Franklin and his guys, and the people who are with him forever. Matt Campbell has those people too. Mauser is one of those guys who's been in his program for a long time, really has worked his way up to that OC role. But as John said, maybe we see it in a different capacity. If he comes here with him, we'll see. But yeah, their DC, it's an interesting situation because they certainly would have familiarity with Jim Knowles going back to the Big 12 and when he was at Oklahoma State. So, you'd have that familiarity there. Obviously, Knowles is in, just wrapping up the first year of a 3-year deal here. But yeah, if he wants to bring his guy, he's going to have every opportunity to bring his guy. So we'll see. I mean, these are all the staff movement. Gosh, I mean, this stuff's going to play out here in the next couple weeks. But again, this is the awkwardness of this bowl situation. This is what we hit on last week when I said, you know what, the best scenario for these guys is to not have to deal with a bowl game, because you're going to have guys in the building that know they're not part of this next staff. And what's that like, right? I mean, do you do the job? Do you mail it in? I mean, I get it. Everything you're doing impacts your next job, but it's a tough spot for a lot of people in that building. So I want to be sensitive to that too, because again, these are folks with families and this is their livelihood.
Children are in school right now.
It is hard and it's difficult. And again, that's there's a lot of people over there in that building that know, hey, come January, we're not going to be here. And we might not know where we're going to be, but we're picking up and we're moving. And that's tough.
Yeah. Another question here, a quick one. Can we explain why Penn State coaching search took 54 days and Iowa State took 54 seconds? Yeah, Penn State was chasing better candidates. They were trying to pull candidates away from good situations. Iowa State hired a coach who was in not even a group of 6 conference right now. Like they're just floating, or Washington State is, along with Oregon State, till they join the Mountain West. I think I can't remember which one. Sorry. They're going to have the pack, whatever they're calling it. But
I was going to make a joke. I'm not going to make it.
Yeah, don't. But yeah, Penn State was just chasing better candidates. I don't think we need to dwell on that too much. Interesting comments here. Someone says that Peacock ran a 4.2 at Toledo, which again, I don't know this, but if that's true, that's great. Like, I think that is what you want. I think he was last there like a decade ago, but I would hope that he would be willing to make that shift in this. No, go ahead.
Again, it's been a day. When you first put that up on the screen, I was like, oh, 4.2. And I was like, no, we're not talking about this guy's 40-yard dash time. God, no. And I was like, oh, 4.2.
65 years old. He's not
running. I was like, man, what are they doing here?
It's not that he's not running a 4.2. You got any eligibility
left? Yeah.
It's that he's not running a 40-yard dash. He's just not getting there at the end of it. Question here that I think is really important for the whole thing. Will they follow the trend of bringing in more of an NFL-style front office? To me, that is the whole point of all of this. Like, that is why, in the end, like, the big overarching theme is that James Franklin was fired. They brought in a new head coach who would have an NFL-style front office, who would be a more modern college football program with a general manager, with player personnel staff, not necessarily separate from the coaching staff, but like that works in tandem, not just takes orders from a head coach, and that has a real voice in the room. I don't know that it's going to be full Ron Rivera at Cal or Andrew Luck at Stanford. I'm not ruling that out, but it is not going to be like James Franklin's relationship with Andy Frank, to be blunt, right? Like, James Franklin told Andy Frank what to do, right? He told him what to do. He was his like superior, and I'm not doubting that Campbell will be his GM superior too, but that GM will have a much bigger say than Penn State's previous GM.
Yeah. So the guy at Iowa State that was functioning in that role is a guy by the name of Derek Hoodger. And I was doing some asking around about him within the last 48 hours. This is someone who, you talk about Iowa State ties. He was at Iowa State in 2011 as a student assistant, and he's stayed there ever since. So again, I keep mentioning like, oh, Matt Campbell and his guys, who are these people? This GM certainly, to me, would fit the billing of that, which I would imagine he comes here with him. Again, I could be wrong. We'll see. But how and this came up in the audio leaks as well, how Penn State spent their money and how they did. And we talked about it. I mean, I wrote about it after James Franklin was fired, was, do you want to pay your top players more money? Or Penn State's structure under James Franklin was, hey, we want to give everybody on the roster some money because we want to preserve the locker room dynamic, right? There are different ways of looking at this. Like that, every GM, every staff, like that's going to be a push and pull. And how are the top teams doing it? Which is also tough because when we deal with figures and this space in college football, it's so difficult to get actual, true, legitimate answers on how much a team spent on their roster and, you know, how that money was divvied up and what the players are making, because guys are told not to talk about it, right? Like that's a big part of this to preserve the locker room dynamic. I mean, or you could just have an audio leak and tell everybody what your roster's meant. I mean, that works too. But
yeah, that's true.
So yeah, the role of the GM is massively important. I am fascinated to learn more about what they want to do here. Quite frankly, I think that's a question we will get into once Matt Campbell is introduced. I'm sure he will be asked about it. I'm sure Pat Kraft will be asked about it, among many other things. But yeah, this is a big position in this era of the sport.
Yeah. Again, totally agree. They're going to depend on that person to make evaluations, to lead recruiting, to do all of that stuff, to potentially manage money, right? Like that. It's all of that sort of stuff. Yeah,
I mean, it's one of the best conversations I've had with somebody in this space was with the Nittany Lions GM, because both the basketball programs here have GMs. And like, think about it this way. You are trying to bring in someone who can help you as a football staff identify what is the market value for a top flight wide receiver? What is the market value for, you know, a stud defensive end? What's the market value for a linebacker? And what do we pay a linebacker? How much should we pay a linebacker? How important is that position? What about a running back?
Are you asking me that question? Because I think all of our longtime listeners know what I think of how much you should pay a linebacker and a running back. It's not much.
And John,
it's a very low number.
Same on punters, right? Same on punters.
I just wouldn't roster one. It would be way easier.
But these are like the kinds of conversations and thoughts that the GMs are having around the country. And again, everyone's being so guarded with their roster and how much they're spending because it's a competitive space. So you have to try and find your way around that. So yeah, the GM hire will be significant.
Yeah. What I think is the most important question we've gotten so far. Will I start creasing my rowback hats as aggressive as Campbell's? So this, for those watching on YouTube, this is not too aggressive of a crease.
No.
I have a Phillies hat that looks like a lot of the hats that's downstairs. I'll wear it next time.
Okay.
It is like it's got the aggressive crease. Like we're talking, it's a little tight on the temples. Like this is the very aggressive crease. I'll make sure I wear that next time we do.
It's very much like when you look at it, it reminds me, when you had the kids in Little League, right? You had kids on the team.
Yes.
And, like, some of them
they break it usually, and he has the bills of his hat. They're not broken.
Yeah.
You got to have a very specific hat to do that. So that Phillies hat.
God, I hope this guy goes on a coach's caravan so I can really get in the weeds. Excuse me, sir. Why is your hat like that?
So, okay. I think now I probably should say more because I've seen it brought up and it's been reported elsewhere, evidently. That I don't want to address the specific reporting, but I'll say the reporting. There are people in the chat who are saying that On3 reported that that Penn State was not able to contact Campbell early in the process and to express their interest, and that he didn't know that they were interested. I think that's a fair way to put that. Sometimes you change agents and you kind of, I'm so scared of saying what
so there could have been
I've
some
been sitting on this one. There could have been some challenges in communication and
maybe some communication breakdowns, maybe
communication breakdown, or some people have
misunderstandings happen a lot too.
Yeah, but I also
think in life.
I also think sometimes people are aggrieved, that you make decisions and maybe don't pass along information that they should. Just speaking vaguely, I think that's also possible that kind of stuff happens in life sometimes. And then maybe if you have someone else and they, don't get reached out to because of that.
Or you just take the Audrey Snyder coaching recommendation list from InsideTheLions.substack.com and you just slip it under the guy's door and say, check yes or no. Interest?
Yeah. Yes.
Real tampering machine over here. Yeah.
Look at another question here. How do we see him changing his offense and defense now that he's more talented player pool? We don't know. Like, I think the first step is getting the coordinators. And if it's Heacock, like, again, we know that he runs the 3-3-5. And if he has run the 4-2-5 before at Toledo or elsewhere, I wouldn't be surprised if he were to pivot back to that because it's a little easier when you have more talent. We'll see based on what he brings in with an offensive coordinator when that time comes. I think we will be able to analyze that more properly at the time. But yeah, I would think that they would go to a 4-2-5 if they had their druthers. It's just like a better way to run offense now. You're kind of not relying as much on an overhang linebacker. You have you have your set 4 down guys, and you're not dropping a 5th guy constantly that maybe shouldn't be dropping into coverage. There are very few coordinators that can get away with that. Ironically enough, Jim Knowles is usually one of them. If he's not here, that obviously won't matter as much anymore. But yeah, someone said, when do we expect the staff movement to happen? I would expect guys leave for Virginia Tech after the bowl game. Other staff movement could happen sooner. What is the fallout for Kraft? And I think this is important to get into. I don't know if you want to get into this first, Audrey, and then I can piggyback off it. But I think honestly, there's not much.
Yeah, I think it's like, okay, it was a bumpy ride to get here, but you landed the plane and you got a really good, talented candidate that I think, had we not known publicly, right, what we knew about this search, had we not known that they were so far in the process and that BYU's guy was their top candidate and that they thought they were getting this done and didn't, if this search didn't become so public on Tuesday, I think you could roll out Matt Campbell, who historically, right, this is the other part with Matt Campbell, he's not a guy who's having conversations during the season. Like, he's always shut them down. Yep. Like, I am not entertaining job offers while my team's playing.
I don't know that he always has. He has recently, because I think the USC thing really impacted him in a major way with that.
And that's fair. And I think that's kind of the part of it where you're like, all right, ultimately at the end of the day, you got a really good candidate. And quite frankly, if Matt Campbell comes in here in the next 2 years and they keep this thing rolling and they are able to build off of the successes of the Franklin era, and if it translates to this level, right, and all those things, big ifs, but if that happens, people are going to look back at these past 54 days and kind of just laugh about it, I think, and be like, wow, remember that? Remember the whole crumble the cookie thing? And oh my God, remember when we thought we were getting this coach and we were tracking flights and we were doing all these crazy things that come with coaching searches? At the end of the day, you got a really good candidate. You got a candidate that, had it not become so public and so messy and blown up, I think a lot of people would have been happy with Matt Campbell from the jump.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think the the fact that it became public is the actual problem, right? It's not the way that they handled the search. I know people wanted it done immediately. Like I don't think there's that much of a difference.
Timeline. We are in the same timeline that we thought we would be. Maybe we're a weekish later. Maybe
5 days. But like I don't think it's even a week. I can't stress this enough because I said on the last pod, we obviously have different listeners, different views. I want to make sure everyone knows that this is the reason. To be clear, though, if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button down below. We greatly appreciate it. They did not fire James Franklin just to get a jump start on the coaching search. They fired James Franklin when they did, so James Franklin would have the most optimal opportunity to be a head coach and help mitigate the buyout as much as they could. That's it. They were never hiring a coach midseason. Like, it just wasn't going to happen.
And you look at it, John, knowing everything we know now, right? You got James Franklin. You got the $9 million.
Penn State officially announced the hire.
Oh, did they? At 9:30 on a Friday night.
9:27 pending board approval.
There we go. Yeah, officially official.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's at the end of the day, you got everything that you needed, right? Like you got your guy. Your search was what it was, and I think that's certainly Pat Kraft is going to be asked about why there wasn't a search committee, why a search firm wasn't involved, why he wanted to run this thing. And those are all questions that we have to get answers to because I'm curious about that. But at the end of the day, you got a good candidate. And man, it sure felt like for a while we were going to be firing up this podcast and being like, oh my gosh, like, are we talking about an AD firing? Are we talking about an NFL head coach that we think is a really bad fit? Are we talking about, oh my God, they just pulled out some random candidate, or, oh, they just reached on like the next tier of coordinators because the top tier of college coordinators, those guys were gone. Thankfully, we don't have to have those conversations because I thought we were going to be having those potentially on Wednesday, maybe on Thursday. If Matt Campbell would have gotten cold feet, maybe we would have had some of that. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, the best thing Matt Campbell can do is come in here, show who he is, let this roster see who he is, what he's about, and then let players decide because January 2nd, that portal window is open in one way or the other, and we're going to get resolution on this roster pretty soon within that next month.
Yeah, I think so too. And spoiler alert, there are already conversations happening. The Tony Rojas mention is very funny,
very funny.
On the leaked audio. And listen, I don't know about you, but that sort of lines up with what I heard, right? Like that it's how this stuff goes. And Pat Kraft said as much when he announced that, or he had the presser after James was fired. So yeah, I think all of that stuff is going to be happening. Let's see here. I appreciate everyone in the chat. There are a lot of questions. I am trying to make sure that I'm getting to everything. There are a lot of questions here. My apologies for everyone. Someone said Kevin Patullo someone said Kevin Patullo for offensive coordinator. If anybody in that building cares about me, they will make that hire. They will save me of the misery of watching that until the end.
Oh, but you did have you flashed it earlier. I wanted to touch on the Nick Sirianni connection.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes. Nick Sirianni was called roommates with Matt Campbell. And I'm under the impression that there was something else too that I want to touch on. I'll tie this in.
Okay.
Neely Bendapudi, I think I said this earlier, was just as involved in the process late. She wasn't early. She did not take over the search. Those things did not happen. There are people pushing specific narratives because they have a specific interest. Yeah, a specific agenda. As far as I am aware, her involvement did not fundamentally change at any point in the process. Maybe she was asking for more frequent updates later, but the actual involvement in the process did not really change. But yes, Campbell and Sirianni were college roommates. I'm under the impression that Howie Roseman was actually sort of involved, not highly involved in the process, but like was a sounding board, I guess is a good way to put it, across the 54 days. Are we
going to get a Nick Sirianni appearance at Penn State at some point? Or are we going to have to wade through that? I mean, we've gotten Big Dom this year. I think this whole thing.
I don't know that I can handle that one.
Big Dom was the conduit to all of this, John. He was the guy that's why he kept showing up, right? What if that's it? We thought we solved it last week with Big Dom and the ice cream stories post Rutgers. What if Big Dom the whole time was just the middleman relaying info to Pat Kraft about, hey, Matt Campbell, Nick said this. Oh, Matt said this. Why don't you take that? What if that's what this whole thing was? All along, Big Dom was pulling the strings.
Yeah, I doubt it. I'm deeply offended by this one. I'm not old enough for that hat crease. Someone who's the same age as Campbell, every hat they own has the same crease. I grew up in Center County, Pennsylvania. You best believe that when I was growing up, I every single hat I had that kind of crease. That is 100% how I always used to wear. That's why I have the Phillies hat. It's like an old school maroon Phillies hat too, like the old logo. It it's that slice of my childhood. That's how I used to wear hats, more so than I do now, with a less rounded and crunched brim. But yeah, I'm deeply offended by that. I used to wear my hats like that all the time. I saw someone say it's reported that Penn State's making a massive football investment. I'm not certain what that is. I'm assuming that's talking about what Fortuna reported earlier about the $30 million in NIL and the $17 million assistant pool. I'm not really surprised by either of those numbers. Like, they had a really expensive roster this year. I'd expect that's the case moving forward. They pumped a lot of money into the staff this year and previously. I would expect that to be the case moving forward. Someone asked if it's official. Yes, that Penn State said pending board approval, which it is
rubber stamped.
Yeah, it's just not going to get denied. I don't know how else
honestly,
to say it.
Those board calls, sometimes, because I'll hop on them to listen to it just to be.
Were you there for the Shrewsbury one? That's my favorite one.
Was that the one that, because there have been one or two that never actually happened, or they forgot publicize it or something?
This is when they hired Micah Shrewsbury in 2021, I think.
Okay.
Maybe 22. I can't remember. Anyways, they go into the executive session. They're talking, whatever. Mm-hmm. They come out. They take the vote. Nobody else says a word. And it's like, all right, it passes. Congratulations, coach. And they end the call. They never say his name. So I had known for a little bit that was their top target. Yeah. This was when Sandy Barber was the athletic director still. I knew what was happening.
I do vaguely remember
and
that.
I was
because it was
are you shitting me?
Yeah.
What was the point of this?
The board just did that because back several years ago, when I worked at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, I was covering Penn State football, but in the off season especially, I would wade into the board of trustees meeting. Covering higher ed was part of the job, and it was fascinating. I specifically remember going to one Penn State board of trustees meeting that was in Hershey, and man, they were just yelling at it, and guys are yelling at one another. And at the end of the thing, I'm just you know what? It's a lunch break. I'm going to Chocolate World because it's already been a half day and I have to listen to the rest of this meeting afterward and write about it. So again, that's how these public universities, that's how the sausage is made. And you might sit through hours upon hours of we're doing this in this hall and this and this. But when it comes to getting a head football coach hired, and it'll just be, hey, here are the terms, trustee so-and-so, do you approve, yay or nay? And they will go right down the list.
Yeah, that it is.
And if anyone says no, then I keep track of that and say, of note.
Yeah, I think it's always very interesting when we see the no's. Someone said, I believe Audrey reported that Terry Smith's planning to stay. Yes, she did right here on this episode earlier and has it on her Substack.
We're a breaking news show now.
Yeah. Everyone on the pod, breaking news today.
It's big day for the pod.
That's the good stuff. Yeah, big day for the Nittany Dispatch.
Big night for the Dispatch.
Well, big few days, really, if we're being honest. Did Matt Campbell or Pat Kraft ask him to stay? I believe everyone was kind of involved in that decision. Matt Campbell is acutely aware of how important Terry Smith is in this transition. And I think Terry Smith wanted to stay. I know that Pat Kraft wanted him to stay. He said, he made that clear. I think was that in the leaks? I can't remember. I know that there was an affinity for Terry Smith from Pat Kraft. And I know that was kind of everyone's hope was that's how this would end, that Smith would stay on staff and that would be it, right? That they
and listen, this is a credit to Terry, and Terry, the fact that he's a Penn State guy, right? You need to have opportunities to go elsewhere. You need to have opportunities to do other things, and this I'm sure is not easy for him either, and that he had his heart set on being the head coach here, and that's what he wanted to do, and he's had that opportunity since October. He spoke so many times about what it meant to him and the emotion and these guys. I'm cognizant of that too, of this is kind of a part of that, if this is a tough thing to be all right, I didn't get the job that I interviewed for, but I still want to stay here because these are my guys and I'm committed to Penn State. That takes, I think, a special level of person to kind of swallow their pride a little bit and do that. So yeah, again, but keeping Terry Smith here, that dynamic is super, super important.
Someone asked who cheers for the Phillies in Center County. Someone who grew up on Chase Utley and Jimmy Rollins and Ryan Howard and Cole Hamels. So this
is why, every time
we're not doing this.
My weird fandoms, I always say John could have been a Pirates fan.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that either.
Nope.
I'm just going to, and this will be a nice little treat for those who are watching on YouTube, either live or after the fact. I'm just going to flash this comment up on the screen. I'm not going to say anything about it, and I'm going to remove it from the screen. And it is at about 1:24 and 30 seconds in for those of you who want to go back and watch it. And I will just
an hour 24, not a minute.
Sorry, what did I really say that? Jeez.
Yeah, it's possible I misheard my.
An hour 24 and 30 seconds is where that flashed up on the screen. If you would like to see it after the fact, which I just think it is very funny. Again, a lot of questions. Greatly appreciative of everyone who's leaving them in the chat right now. And yes, I am vamping, so I can find one that I can read here real quick because you guys are having a lot of conversation there too, which we greatly appreciate.
We enjoy it. Mix it up in there.
There's another similar comment to the one that I just flashed up there. Someone asked what I say Howie Roseman's role was in Campbell's hiring. I don't think he had like a major role or anything. I think he was just, he was a sounding board throughout the process, right? And there's obvious connections there with Sirianni and Campbell, so like you can get more information. But yeah, it's not like he was making the hire or anything like this. Was let me say this.
Big Dom was doing that.
Also, by the way, if you're in the chat, like, stop being mean to people. We don't need to do this. I'm just going to go ahead and ban it. It's easier. Sorry. Have a nice
Please,
night.
We don't have to ban people from the chat. Like,
I don't
be civil.
like
it's a Friday night.
Right.
Penn State hired
really,
a head football coach.
Honestly, credit to everyone in here.
Fun.
Yeah, everyone in here. Almost all of you are being civil, and we greatly appreciate that. We love it. We love the conversation. Love that you guys are conversing with each other and with us. But yeah, let's be adults here, and maybe not leak audio too. I think that's a big thing. I did see someone mention.
Don't worry, we know I'm not tech savvy enough to do that.
Yeah, I'm well aware of that. Here's a good question: do we think Matt Campbell is a better hire than Satake? Would you like to take this first, or would you like me to take it?
I will take this first.
Okay.
Okay, so we have the head-to-head comparison point this year. We know that BYU won, so I think that's one barometer. I am going to go with Matt Campbell on this because of the upside, because of the regional piece. Ohio guy. Again, I liked the idea. Like Tuesday night, I was like, hey, I think this would be a really cool hire. Like, I think it'd be fun to be out of the box. I think it would be cool. Like, I think it could have worked here, but I think this is maybe less risky. Like, I think Campbell's less of a risk because of the regional fit. In terms of recruiting. But yeah, it's a really good question that honestly I haven't thought a ton about, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's like a dead even hire.
Okay.
Like I
So you punted on the question. You said you don't believe in punting.
No. Well, first off, clearly.
I don't know.
So we'll have a roundtable up at CenterDaily.com. Myself and my coworkers there who do a wonderful job in that newsroom, Brett Pilato and Josh Moyer. We will have a roundtable, and I mean, splitting hairs here, probably going to have an A-. Was thinking about a B+, but I think an A-. I think Satake would have been an A- as well. I just think they're both really good coaches. I think they're different, very different coaches. Like, I think Satake is I think Campbell is a little more intense more often. I think Satake is a little more laid back more often, but I still think like they both connect to players really well. They're both really good talent developers. They've both done more with less. Like, I think there are a ton of similarities, and I'm not surprised that Satake was like the guy, and then they pivot to someone who is like Campbell, because to me, it's the same level of coaching. Like, I think this is a really good hire. I don't think that this is like substantially better or worse than had Satake landed here. I think that if you want to make the argument that Satake is better, I think it's that he would have had a recruiting class. I would have anticipated him flipping a lot of guys from BYU, and you can make the argument about who has the better roster at BYU or Iowa State. I think it's pretty clearly BYU, so maybe you get more talent that way. But maybe Iowa State, despite not having as much talent there, maybe Campbell goes and gets more guys from other schools in the portal. So, like, I think that stuff is hard, but I think it's pretty leveled out with those two.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think it's, again, and we've said all along, like, it's going to take a couple years. Like, I do think, and I wrote this on my piece over my Substack, on my gut reactions, one pre-write that people actually got to read among the many others that got trashed this week.
By the way, someone was criticizing us for pre-writing. I just want to point out, we're not doing this to try and be first. We're trying to do this to be prepared. Like, so you're not writing 4 stories in like 15 minutes. Like, we're trying to get as much as we can to our readers.
You're drinking out of a fire hose when you're dealing with these kind of things. And it's like, okay, if you're not ready to go, honestly, like, you're also in the business. Like I am literally in the business of selling subscriptions. That is my full-time job right now. So like, if you don't have content, like you're not just going to give it away for free on Twitter. Like you have to be prepared. And that's been every place I worked. I mean, that's and it's also too, like people are like, oh, if you're going to pre-write, you're going to jinx it. It's like, no, if I don't pre-write it, then I'm going to absolutely like get God. And we're not trying to do that.
Someone mentioned how I pronounce Satake. Like that's how you pronounce it. I saw a lot of people pronouncing it Satake, me too at first, but yeah, it's Satake. I spent a lot of time working on that to make sure I had it right, and it's not going to matter past this week, unfortunately for me. This is interesting. Do you think Satake's people leaked Tuesday's wackiness versus Penn State people? My impression is that did not come from Penn State's side, which makes me. And I'm planning on having as many conversations about this entire process as I can over the next week or so, specifically this part of it. My belief right now, and I don't know this to be true, is that there could have been intent from that side of things, from either Satake or BYU to add pressure, to make it more favorable for BYU, or let me rephrase that, to make it more favorable for Satake staying at BYU. I don't know. I don't know how likely it is that he was ever going to be Penn State's head coach, I guess is how I would put it.
Yeah, I that's the part I struggle with, because I'm like, again, you start talking to people around these conversations and people around him and in the industry, and it's like, all right, well, I thought this guy's whole deal was like super forward, super honest, super upfront. So I'm like, I don't think it's a leverage play. But at the end of the day, like, yes, people can change their minds. Like that's a very real thing that happens. So I do not know, honestly, on that one. But yeah, we'll keep digging on it, and maybe maybe there'll be like some audio leaks from the coaching search too, or something we can.
Yeah, we'll see. I hope
imagine, man?
I don't want to do that again.
Wild.
I just don't. Good question here. What do you think is required in the next 5-year window to consider this hire / decision to fire Franklin a success? I think making the playoff 3 times. I think because, and I know people don't want to hear this. People want to hear, you got to win a national title. The goal to me, because football is a really weird sport, it's get to the dance and then just see what happens.
Get in.
The goal every year is get to the playoff and then just kind of hope it goes your way week in and week out. Maybe you're healthier than someone else. Injury luck is in your favor, all that stuff. You get the right bounce at the right time. You just got to get in there and hope for the best. And I think that should be the goal, like 3 out of the next 5. And I think, there's a chance you can increase those expectations beyond that. If you said 4 in the next 5, I don't think that's that crazy. But yeah, I think 3 playoff appearances in the next 5 years should be the expectation.
Again, like Penn State makes this move at the end of the day because it's about competing for it all and going for it all. You're putting yourself back in that position to try and do so. Yeah, so I'm with you. I mean, if 3 times out of 5 you're in there, then you get hot once you're in, or you get on a roll, whatever. Like I think again, the profile of this program also speaks to, hey, like you were able to get Matt Campbell. You were able to land a guy that a lot of other teams would love to have. So again, for as much as, we see these other marquee jobs fill up, and I'm not saying that this is LSU. I'm not trying to say that, but you see these other jobs that go and got filled in a hurry. At the end of the day, Penn State has a really, really strong coach who I think can be potentially someone who can elevate, beyond the Franklin. I get the gut reaction of, is it an upgrade? Isn't it? It's going to take time, but yeah, 3 out of 5. If you're in the playoff, I think that's fair.
Someone said Go PSU Sports is reporting a Monday presser, which is actually, appreciate the comment there. That is actually very helpful for us.
Actually, I like that. Because Monday, because Sunday's going to be bowl selection.
Yep.
And so Sunday's already eaten up. I like Monday. Yeah, that way I can see my students on Tuesday. Yeah, I like that.
Someone asked about roster retention if we addressed it. Sort of, not a ton. I think
it's a fluid situation.
Yeah, I think you try and retain your best young players and maybe let a lot of the roster go. Sort of how I would look at it.
Which reminds me, I actually need to finish that pre-write on who should be Matt Campbell's priority keeps on this roster. And
I know. I got to write that too. I meant to write that like 3 weeks ago, and I completely forgot. Yeah. There is a lot of criticism about Crumble in the chat, and you have an ally in me, my friends. I have made these comments before.
We mentioned on the show earlier this week that we thought they were way too sugary, and then I complained because the eyeglass place a few doors down in State College smells like cookies, and that's not what I'm going for when I went to get glasses. So yeah, that's where we stand on the matter.
As someone put it last time, they are not cookies; they are small flat cakes. But crumble small flat cakes does not have a good ring to it. Totally agree. Someone asked if Jim Knowles and Andy Kotelnicki are gone, or one or both retained. If Heacock's coming, I would anticipate Knowles being gone. I believe they have to pay him out his full contract. Don't quote me on that, though. Kotelnicki, I don't think he's going to be back. Said it before. I think he's going to be a good coordinator. I think he has a chance to be a better head coach and coordinator. He's got the personality for it. I do expect him to succeed elsewhere, though. It's just, for as good as the years last year was, this was the exact opposite of that. And I understand the recency bias that comes with that, but I think he'll land on his feet and do a good job elsewhere.
Yeah, there's mitigation in both of those coordinator contracts, just like there was with James. So we'll have to kind of see what those numbers are. But yeah, I'm with you. Especially if he's bringing his DC with him, which is what it looks like now, we'll see where it ends up. But if that's the expectation, then I would say no on both of those guys.
Yeah, please continue talking while I send an important text.
Okay, John. So let's see what else. All right. So we had the audio leaks super early in the morning, and then we've had all the Matt Campbell hysteria all day. I think too, when we talk about the portal with Matt Campbell and with this staff, again, historically at Iowa State, this was not a portal heavy team. We also saw the tweets earlier this week, like Tony Rojas said, if Terry's not the guy, that 90% of the roster is going to leave. I don't think we see 90% of this roster leave. And again, it's a 6-6 team. Like there are guys who are going to move on that Penn State will say, like, you know what, we wish you well, best of luck as you move forward. It's not working here. Or, which they also hit on in the audio leaks, like guys aren't perhaps developing as much as they had hoped or as well as they had thought. So that's another piece to that when you think about roster retention. How do you build through the portal? I would not anticipate that Penn State under Matt Campbell is going to, again, once they get out from under this, once you get your roster set, I don't think they're going to be living in the portal. Like, I do not think we're going to see that, but I think that they will be really aggressive. I think that, again, with the financial resources, which is just my opinion on why I think that maybe Matt Campbell made this move at this time, is because of the financial resources at Penn State to be legitimate players when you're dealing, with rev share and you're dealing with the portal and attracting players and NIL. Like, I think that is very much an important piece of this. So yeah, I think we're going to see it, a little bit differently in terms of this first year. But the other thing too is, like, they have that 2026 recruiting class that's top 50. How many of those guys maybe end up here? And in this era, you can, go through and recruit freshmen out of the portal, right? So you can look at it. And I mean, again, you look at a guy like AJ Harris, who's been here for a couple of years, despite starting his career elsewhere. You can recruit young guys out of the portal and then try to make them a priority in your program over time. So, like, I think that we will see some of that. But yeah, it's this year in terms of transition, like what they're going to do in the next couple months is not how they're going to build long term, if that makes sense. But just recognize that this year is going to be a weird year. And a lot of that is natural with coaching changes and the transition that comes with it. But yeah, is it going to be 90% of the roster? I doubt it, but you never know.
Yeah, not impossible. Sorry, I appreciate you doing that for a little bit.
I just talk. That's what I do.
What a tall task to ask you to just continuously talk.
I'll just keep rambling,
Yes, but I was making sure that what I could say.
Is the program still standing? Is the stadium still standing?
Everything's fine. So what I'll say about the agent stuff, go to, I believe it's, there's discussion about it elsewhere. I would go to On3, subscribe to them. Nate does great work over there. All those guys do great work. There's a long list of them. I don't want to forget everyone. There's discussion about that on their message board and everything, and it lines up with what I know. I'll put it that way. And so again, that's not something I'm comfortable sharing in this avenue, but again, if it's out there, it lines up with stuff that I had heard.
Oh no!
You're
afraid I'm going to call him Matt Cambell. Oh no!
Yeah, you listen.
I'm contained.
I am hoping that Matt Campbell becomes a thing. This would be very fun for me.
Listen, it's Matt Campbell. It's crumble cookies. It's all of it. They got me. The betting site is gonna. God, I'm gonna be so concerned. I'm gonna raise my hand for the microphone. I just won't even address him because it's also gonna be weird because I was used to years of the James Franklin pleasantries and hi, how are you?
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm not good. I don't know what to do now.
I'm gonna do that. I do that with all coaches, like Mike Rhodes, like I was him, like you know what I mean. Like it's just I feel like being cordial is nice.
Yeah. Is that asking too much from me?
Could be. Someone said Dave OC, and I'll say not at Penn State. I'll leave that there. So question here. Appreciate the compliment. You two are the absolute best. Appreciate that. What aspects of Campbell's offense, defense should we most look forward to? It's tough to say right now. Like I think the defense, especially if what again was put in our chat earlier about them switching sort of more to a 4-2-5 rather than the 3-3-5 that Heacock ran at Iowa State. It'll be different, but probably pretty similar to what Penn State has done under Knowles and done under Tom Allen and Manny Diaz. We'll see how they treat coverage, how they treat aggressiveness, what gaps on and stuff like that. We'll get into that when the time comes and how he wants to make those adjustments. And I'll try and find Toledo film if I can, which might be a lot to ask.
Deep in the vault.
Yeah. The offense, we just don't know who the offensive coordinator is going to be right now, unless it's been reported and I have missed it, which I am not doubting, as we've been here for an hour and 40 minutes. I have seen questions too about people asking like what our impressions of the national reaction to it. I don't know. I just like my phone's been blowing up. Here. Yeah, my Twitter is not a place that I can go and get access to information right now because notifications every 15 seconds. But yeah, I'm not certain. I don't know. I would anticipate that people will be talking about this hire very positively. But Matt Campbell is like, how do I say this? He's like beloved by folks in the national media and like has been highly praised for a long time. And I think justly, by the way, I don't think people are off base for saying those sorts of things, but he's definitely like a sort of media darling in some ways because of what he's been able to do at Iowa State.
And he's a ball coach, John. He's a ball coach. That's what I was told. He likes to really get in there and game plan. I said, great, sign me up.
Yeah. I think he is more talent developer than anything else too. I think that's important, right? Like when you talk about someone being a ball coach, like I think that's really important to him. And when you have more talented players, you can really develop that talent to a lot. Like you can maximize the talent you get. It's not just talent development is not just turning 3-star guys into like 4-star players. Yeah. It's taking 5-star players and making them elite. It's taking 4-star players, turning them into 5-star players, 4-star recruits, turning them into 5-star players. Like that's a big part of it too. And it, like I said, it's not just going like from mediocre to good. It's to pull the line out. It's also great to elite, right? Like it's like that's part of it too.
And not everyone. Who said that before? I thought we heard that before.
Our dear friend James Franklin, who is now at Virginia Tech,
who just signed a wonderful signing class, as you all are, I'm sure, aware of. A lot of familiar names in that group.
Someone said I'm the king of terrible takes. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I get a lot of opinions. What do you want?
It's possible.
Yeah. I listen. I like to think that we as a podcast hold ourselves accountable when we're wrong. It's part of the gig. Someone asked
probably why I'll be doing karaoke at some point because boy,
right, because Heisman I was aggressively right. That's why.
Heisman ballot is in my inbox. Now let me tell you guys, spoiler alert, I'm not allowed to tell you who I voted for, but I can tell you I'm not gonna vote for.
True Aller.
Yeah. the person that I said, oh yeah, Heisman, either or. Oh yeah, we'll be in New York City this weekend. Yeah.
Whoops. Someone said, how were wide receivers at Iowa State? Really good last year.
Yes.
Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel both went in I think Higgins went in the second round, top of the second round. Noel went top of the third round, both to the Houston Texans, oddly enough, which needed all the receiver help they could get behind Nico Collins. I mean, they were really good at receiver last year. This year, they had two receivers who were both good deep threats. Their names are escaping me right now. I wrote about them. You can read that on SnyderDaily.com.
I was going to say, because they're one of my first impressions was, these guys had some receivers. Like that was kind of my thought process there. Cause again, that's obviously been the punching bag here, the problem here for the last several years.
People are demanding that I put my hat on and I'm too lazy to do that right now. It's
because then you have to take the headphones. It would mess the audio up.
The whole thing. I can't do that. I apologize. We're slowing down a little bit in the chat. If this is potentially it, we'll vamp here a little bit, but if you have more questions, feel free to get them in there. But I think we've covered a lot of ground tonight, and we will cover a lot of ground Monday. I'll say it, Monday evening.
If he's introduced Monday, we'll go live again Monday night.
if he's talking Monday, we'll go live probably 6 p.m. Monday night, if I had to guess, depending on when we get done writing. As always, we will tweet that out. So if you follow both of us on social media, that is the best way to find out when we're going live. Or hit the thumbs up button and the subscribe button down below. You'll get a notification, turn those notifications on for when we go live, because all of our episodes, unless my appendix is literally exploding, are live now. And that was the only thing that stopped us.
Well, because I hit the wrong button in full disclosure. We thought I was live, and I wasn't live. And then at the end, we're like, oh no, I might have just talked for 20 minutes and there's nothing. But turns out it was there. We had a rough start to the season, but kind of like this coaching search, John, we've managed to land the plane.
Yeah, I don't have any more appendixes, so that can't happen again. So if you're just hoping none of my other internal organs start to explode.
God, I hope mine stays intact now. Now I'm worried.
Well, have faith, listeners. I know how to go live, so that won't be as much of an issue.
And he knows how to handle the comment section.
Yes,
too, so he can go live.
Yes.
Mine would have been like one big audio leak, and then it would have. We would have boosted our viewership, though. I would have given the people some juice as I searched for the. It's just about like the other couple weeks ago when my Wi-Fi went out and I just held up the help sign in the press box for you. It would have been the same thing, but the folks would have had like 30 minutes of that. So they don't need that.
Yeah. One more question here, unless there is more. Impression is Matt Campbell does well. He may be here for a long time. Is that part of the appeal of him, is loyalty, that we shouldn't expect him to be in a lot of future coaching searches? I'm sure that is appealing. I don't think that's like part of the play. Part of the play is like he's a really good coach and they think he can elevate this program to winning national titles. Like that's the goal, right? To make college football playoff and then hope that everything bounces your way and you win a national title. I don't
if he
think
ends up coaching like the Cleveland Browns at some point or something, like who knows? But
yeah, right. Like can't rule it out that he could be an NFL coach because he's had those aspirations in the past. But I do think that he probably wants to accomplish what he wants to accomplish at Penn State.
Yeah.
Like I don't think this is a situation where in 2 years he's going to be.
He's not a climber. Not a climber.
Yeah. Someone mentioned that he's not a great recruiter. His floor is high, but his ceiling probably isn't. I don't think you understand how hard it is to get anybody to go to Ames, Iowa to play college football. Like it is not easy. I think he is a very good recruiter. And more importantly, he has to hire people around him to recruit at a high level. He has to have the financial resources to recruit at a high level. And I think he should have both of those things, not just at a higher level than Iowa State, at like a significantly higher level than he had at Iowa State.
I fully expect that Penn State's rev share commitment is going to be more than double of what it was for this roster at Iowa State. So again, like think about it that way, right? Like at least
I think probably
we're not a math podcast here, but at
least 2.5. I think that is that's probably closer than 2. But I think that's a good place to leave it, as we are over 100 minutes in. We appreciate everyone that is in the live chat, that's watching, that's discussing with us, that's watching after the fact on YouTube, that's listening on Apple Podcasts. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, leave those 5-star rating reviews. They are very helpful. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button down below and hit the subscribe button so you can get that notification when we go live, in all likelihood on Monday night. That is the plan. I cannot believe it is past 10 o'clock. Literally recorded through an entire Sixers game, I think. It's just incredible for us.
I know. I haven't looked at my phone in a while. A lot of messages, a lot of stuff to get caught up on. But we'll keep churning out content. John will be doing it over at the Center Daily Times. I'll be doing it on my Substack, Inside the Lions. We'll be sharing everything we find and come up with, and the roster priority targets, and what's the plan for the GM, and what happens next. We'll be here, and we will keep it rolling all off season and bowl selection on Sunday, John. I think we're burying that.
Yeah,
fairly understandably so. Yeah.
Maybe we'll go live Sunday night. Probably not.
No, because Packers, Bears, 4:25. Yeah, I'm tied up.
That's not going to happen. I assume that would be the case. We appreciate all the kind words about you guys appreciating this. We appreciate all of you. Like I said, appreciate the kind words earlier. Yeah, about our reporting. Audrey, fantastic job reporting the Terry Smith news. Again, broken on this podcast. Thank you.
Covering this whole search, breaking the news that hey, Matt Campbell's the guy. And also
Matt Campbell is the Penn State head football coach, and that will be it will be introduced on Monday. Someone asked like what time the presser is. I apologize. I think that information's out there. I just don't have it because I haven't seen the press release.
Let me see. What is actually?
Okay, we'll stay here for a second. I'll do the plugs for us, and then
wait, John. We got news. We got inbox. I got an inbox to read. We got a statement for the people who asked about the statement. we have a statement from a message from Pat Kraft.
Oh boy.
Sending out to our inbox at 10:04 p.m. I'm thrilled to share with the Penn State community that we have reached an agreement with Matt Campbell to have him serve
I
as
thought
the
this was something
17th
else.
head football coach at Penn State. We look forward to officially welcoming Coach Campbell and his family to Penn State on Monday, pending the approval of terms by the Board of Trustees Equity and Human Resources Committee, consistent with the bylaws, which require advance notice of meetings. Coach Campbell is without a doubt the right leader at the right time for Penn State football. He's a stellar coach with a proven track record of success, and his values, character, and approach to leading student athletes to success on and off the field align perfectly with the traditions and values of Penn State. I want to express my deepest gratitude to Coach Terry Smith for stepping up when we needed him the most and for rallying our team to finish this season with 3 straight wins. Coach Smith bleeds blue and white and pours his entire heart and soul into Penn State football. I'm deeply grateful for his commitment to our university. I'm excited that he will continue to be a part of the program. So it turns out we broke the news here first, and we were accurate. Always important. As we start this exciting next chapter for our football program with Coach Campbell at the helm, the future is bright. We will continue to build upon and elevate the high standard that is the hallmark of our program. Here we go, John.
Yep,
Upon
just saw it at the
approval from the
bottom.
Board of Trustees, noon on Monday is the time in the Beaver Stadium media room. So again, that was a statement from Pat Kraft that arrived in my inbox, as well as John's at 10:04 p.m. So that's it. So we will hear from Matt Campbell pending approval from the Board of Trustees. That rubber stamp Monday. The introductory press conference will be at noon Monday. So there we go. That's the next thing on the calendar.
Monday night. And if you would like notification for exactly what time we'll be live, you can find that if you follow Audrey on Twitter at AudSnyder4 and on Blue Sky at audreysnyder.bsky.social. Don't forget to read all of her work and subscribe at insidethelions.substack.com. You can find all of my work at centerdaily.com, where you can also subscribe, where we have, I think, 5 stories up already about the hire, including the breaking story about it and sort of the details and everything there that I have. I will have more about how this process played out. I'm sure you will too, Audrey, in sort of the coming days and weeks. You can find all of my writing, like I said there. You can find me on Twitter at John Sauber, JONSAUBER. On Blue Sky, if you search johnsauber.bsky.social. Someone just mentioned the Eagles play Monday at 8:20. That is a good point. Thank you so much. So
we'll just go before that.
Yeah, we will definitely be done before 8:20. I promise you that, so I can go be upset by myself.
Oh, that's right, because they're out in LA. Yeah.
Yeah, Chargers game.
My brother's going to that game, yeah.
Until then, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.